He tells me every day. He says, man, I really gotta lose my chick in the worst kind of way. She sits on her ass, he works his hands to the bone to give her money every payday. But she wants more dinero just to stay at home. Well, my friend, you gotta say, I won't pay ya, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? Say no way, yeah, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? I guess all his money, well, it isn't enough to keep her bill collectors at bay. I guess all his money, well, it isn't enough, 'cause that girl's got expensive taste. I won't pay ya, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? Say no way, yeah, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? Well, I guess it ain't easy doing nothing at all. Oh, yeah. But hey, man, free rides just don't come along every day. Let me take a bully on the friend now. My friend's got a boyfriend and she hates that dick. She tells me every day. He wants more dinero just to stay at home. Well, my friend, you gotta say, I won't pay ya, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? Say no way, yeah, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? I won't give you no money, I always pay. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job? Say no way, yeah, no way. Nah, nah, why don't you get a job?
To the damage we've been fighting non-stop, words we can't recover. 'Cause I can tell you that it's been a minute since we wanna talk like lovers. I guess we're spinning out, another falling out. And we're out of time, and we gotta face this light. We're gonna work this out, and I'm losing all doubt. When we're just looking for the worst way out, just drag me down. It never ends. So tell me how you can drown me out. But you know now I can't pretend like I don't want the poison that you lend. So let's take it from the top and stop before we drag each other. As we're sitting in the silence and it's going out of lay down the day you tell me, hold you tight. No rush for time when we're just searching for the worst way out. Just drag me down. It never ends. So tell me how you can drown me out. But you know now I can't pretend like I don't want
been a few weeks since I did this. So far, the sound is working. My video is working. Everybody's working. You covered way better than I did on that last show. Thank you. Welcome, my friends. Welcome. Happy Friday to those both employed and underemployed and unemployed. Oh, what a time to be alive, eh? Rebound sound, music, we can't quite hear you. It's going down, I know. Plus, trust me, you're not really missing anything. Oh, wait, my levels are real low. That's fair. Hey, there I am. There's my...
Oh, no, now we're in trouble.
There I go. There I go. This is the first time I actually did something with as much promotion. Usually I'm like, hey, let me get a few drinks on me, and then I'll do something on a Friday night and just see who shows up, stick it against the wall, see who hangs out. My name, anybody who does not know, is Danny Akoski. Some people call me Rando. Some people just call me that whiny bitch on LinkedIn who doesn't have a job. That's a relatively new one. I don't think it's gonna stick. At least I hope it won't. Welcome to this webcast. Like I said, I did the whole Eventbrite thing. I wanted people to have something to remind themselves that this was happening. Also, FYI, totally recorded. If you have to drop, if you got stuff to do, if you're not like me and have a job and get a phone call. Susanna was just on a phone call like right away. I was like, well, of course, an HR thing happens right when we go on. But it will be recorded. It will be disseminated. I'll put it up on my channel. I'll put clips out. I'm also going to put it up on Spotify because for all of my love of streaming and videos and things like that, I detest watching them from other people. Like even my biggest friend, like I the last time I watched or listened to a Darknet Diaries one is embarrassing, and Jack is a good friend of mine. But anyway, I'm going to put this out for everybody. And I say that just real quick. By the way, this is the resume revamp and brand building webcast. This is a thing that I chose to channel a certain amount of anger that I had at a certain thing that I saw on LinkedIn. Real quick,
Is it for good?
Yeah, and it's funny, right? This is like how you should listen to your council of peers that you have. I had so many people. I had written this whole thing. I had started a blog series called Countdown to Zero Pay, because I am currently laid off. I got laid off about a month ago. I was on what's called terminal PTO for the last month. That is now up, and I am myself on the job search. So I spent a lot of time writing. Writing is my thing. I like doing it. So I started a thing on LinkedIn called Countdown to Zero Pay, a blatant ripoff of Kim Zetter's Countdown to Zero Day. Thank you, Kim, for giving me inspiration for that title. And I was pretty upbeat, because I want whatever. Here's my thing. I want all of this to be important to people, and I'm going to stop talking my stuff really quickly and get to our experts, Susanna and Jen. This is not all about me. Other things are completely about me, not this. And there was a person who had posted something bemoaning the fact that they had so many job applicants and they were just so vanilla. And he like had to work like a full 40 hours, but he also had the secret, right? He had the secret to resume building. He had the secret to like standing out or whatever, but only if you joined his thing at like, and he only gave an Eastern time, I think, or whatever. And then somebody asked, will it be recorded? And he was like, no, because 90% of success is showing up. So this will not be recorded. My wisdom will be lost to the ages. And that set me off as only I can be set off. And I wrote this whole scathing thing. And then I massaged it because, you can't do certain things on LinkedIn. And then I showed it to my friends and on my big council of peers that I have. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. Give it to them. Like, post that stuff. And then there was one. Thank you, Bill. And then also Susanna helped me with this. Jen, too, on this line.
I don't know. I told you to do it. I said burn it to the ground.
I was trying to get you out of it. But it was specifically Heaven Sent and Susanna. They're like, hey, man, you're a sweet guy. maybe
deep down.
maybe take a beat. And of course, I'm 43, but like I'm 12 in my head. I just want to start cutting people. But
You
then
didn't name
sat.
any names in the. You didn't name any names
I
in the
didn't. I
thing.
wasn't about to name any names. I wasn't gonna name any names. I wasn't gonna link. I wasn't gonna do any of these things. Um, but it angered me in such a way that there are people that would listen to this who don't know any better, and then would be made to feel less than because of how this person was speaking, being in a position of authority, and being a hiring manager. Just the way that he spoke about these people like they were a burden, and then offering help but with caveats, really set me off. However, thanks to people like Susanna and Bill, set me off in a better direction. So I decided I'm gonna make a little Eventbrite thing. I'm gonna make. I mean, I've been streaming for years. I have the stuff. I'm not doing anything else right now. So let's do a thing. So, and I meant what I said on the banner. I'm just the monkey pushing the buttons here. I can tell you my stories. By the way, if there are questions in the chat, we want to answer all of them, right? And even if we can't, we do have an hour to do this. If we can't, we'll answer them later, I promise. But that's all a little backstory. I took 10 minutes talking about that, so let's not take any more time. People are actually waiting for actual things. I would like to introduce my two experts who are very special to me personally and professionally. On the left of the screen is Susanna Williams, founder and showrunner of HireableCareerCoaching.com. Susanna is the one who helped me revamp my resume, and I'll get to that story later. But completely invaluable, but became more than that, became my friend through the whole process, and just chief cheerleader, morale booster. And I saw so much value in Susanna as a person and as a professional that she became the unofficial off-boarder for the company that I just left. I put all my friends to her, and it's just been wonderful. So she's been doing this for how many years, Susanna? Have you been like kind of coaching people and doing resumes and?
It feels like my entire life. I have been doing this officially for a year, but it was because other people were encouraging me to do this more publicly. I was just doing this for my friends. More importantly, though, I was a job seeker for the last 6 years. So I have been on the other side of the ATS, and I am now a chief people officer at a nonprofit organization. So this has been an incredible experience. I've learned a lot in the last 3 months I've been in this role, and I am so excited for this conversation.
And I am, take this for what it's worth. There are people in the chat who know me. There are people in the chat who don't know me. There are people going to be watching this and listening to this later who do or do not know who I am. I am a curmudgeon. I am a skeptic. I hear these things. And full disclosure, Susanna has a service, and she gets paid for that service. She does a free intro, but she does it because she's a professional. Capitalism, yay. But it was money on my end well spent. Here's a question. Do I have to spend money to do these things? No. Am I trying to sell you Susanna? I am not. She is an expert that is doing this of her free time. She has no kickbacks. I'm not getting sponsored for this. If you saw an ad when you came on here, that wasn't mine. Twitch did it. So she's doing this for free. Contact her, don't contact her, ask her questions. It's completely up to you. There is no selling here. I didn't ask you to register. There's no catch here. So that's Susanna. And now we go to my other guest, who I have known for over the past year and a half, Jen Van Antwerp. She is a cybersecurity marketer. She also runs the nonprofit Sober and Cyber. You may have seen her around some conferences. We met at Wild West Hacking Fest on the bus a couple years ago. Now, I had then since hired her on as a contractor to my previous company to teach me all about marketing. And believe me when I say this, again, curmudgeon, hacker, skeptic, she's one of the good ones. They do exist. She is one of the no BS ones. And I valued her counsel in all things because I was responsible for trying to get dollars into my company. She is wonderful, but also I wanted an aspect of talking about a resume and talking about the importance of building your personal brand. I can speak to that personally, but again, not about me. We are so this industry is so inundated right now. It's looking a little better. All of my sources that I talk to say look for spring and summer as things looking up again, but you're still in competition with hundreds and thousands of people. So building that personal brand is incredibly important. And somebody gave a really valuable comment that I actually didn't even mean to do. They said, thanks for doing this because so much of this is geared towards people who are just coming into the industry. not, talking to people that are trying to rebuild themselves or have been doing this. I'm 43. I'm on, I'm on that cusp of a way out in the next 20 years, although I'll be working until I'm dead. But this is building a brand, a personal brand might still be relatively new to those job seekers that are in their 40s and 50s. And how important that actually is. So without further ado, I've introed my experts. I'm now going to be paying attention to chat and help leading the conversation. Where do we kick off? Susanna, let's start at the resume level. Right?
So the resume, yeah. The resume was invented in 1482 by Leonardo da Vinci. This is such antiquated technology, and we're doing it pretty much the same way that we've been doing it since 1482. A resume is a way to tell your story. It is a marketing document. It is not a legal document. And I think too many people treat their resume as it has to be an factual recording of absolutely everything you have done and every title as it was in your HR file in your past company, instead of knowing that actually you're telling a story to a listener and you got to tell a story they want to hear. And you have to tell it in a way that is clear about what you can bring to them because you have accomplished this in the past and you're going to accomplish it in the future.
It's let's just jump right. So I'm going to come at this from somebody who's sitting there looking at their resume, right? Let's start it this way. What I was thinking months ago when I started to do this, and yes, I was thinking about this months ago, but therein lies another point. Susanna, how often should you be updating your resume? What if you've been at a job for 10 years, which unheard of at this point? How often should somebody keep it present in their mind to be updating?
All the time.
Yeah.
Always be looking for your next job. One of the things we have learned in recent times is that security is an illusion. Opportunity is around the next corner, and you need to be ready to tell your story. I forget my metrics. I forget what I've accomplished because I'm so focused on the job that I'm doing that when it comes time to look for my next job, I don't have any of the stories I need to tell. So keep your resume updated and keep editing it. It really is not something that should ever grow dusty.
Or maybe even just like a metrics file, because I've done that before where I might not revamp my resume each time, but I'll have even just a notepad document or something where you can jot down quick wins or different things that you'd want to go back and talk about in a resume after the fact while they're fresh in your mind.
Oh God, you just told a bunch of cyber people to do documentation and they're all collectively
like, oh God, no.
I also have an email folder called Attagirls, where I save emails from people I currently work with that praise me so that I can remember what value I bring. And I use it in real time when I'm having a down day. But as I'm looking for a job, these are almost testimonials, right? That you can share with other people. The secret to getting a folder like that is giving that kind of feedback. So start praising people specifically in your world. When you see something, say something, and start building this culture of appreciation so that people know what they bring to their current job, but also to future jobs.
Because I mean, I know at least for me, as I stated earlier, I do a lot of writing and I get a lot of ideas. And I tell myself, it's the amazing amount of times I tell myself, oh, that was a really great thought that I had. I'm intrigued by that. I'll remember it. I'm not going to get up right now. I'm not going to write it down. I'm not going to text I'll remember it. And without fail, 1000% of the time, I will forget. But the feeling will stay. The feeling of like, that thing was really cool and really sentient. You could have really built on that, you dummy. So my thing, and you got to find a process that works, right? Like, what is your process, Jen, when you have a thought about something like, hey, I'm going to add this to my resume, or I'm going to...
This is going to be embarrassing, but I have a note to self in my Signal.
Yeah.
And whenever I have a quick thought, I just send myself a note in Signal. And then that way I know it's going to still be there. And it's also, encrypted and secure so that, I'll still hopefully have access to it forever. So that's where I start my kind of stream of consciousness when I have a spark of an idea, I put it into that note to self.
I don't want to get too. There's so many different ways we could go about this, but let's hit the first question that just came in from Pirate Mara. What about the legal implications of claims made on a resume? Is a resume legally binding?
It is
Caveat:
not.
none of us are lawyers.
None of it.
Not a lawyer, not a doctor, barely a functioning mammal. Not lawyers. But in your experience, have you heard this question before? Is a resume legally binding?
Yep, and I asked it myself. So resume is not legally binding. What is legally binding is the actual application you submit. A resume is a storytelling tool. So if you had a title like chief widget washer that was very specific to your company and like sounded great on paper, but does not transfer anywhere else, make it a title that actually other people can understand. Yeah, so tell the story that makes sense to other listeners, and that's absolutely fine to do that. What should be factual, though, is one, what you did at that company. Do not make things up because people will ask you questions about it. And two, your education. So if you include your education on your resume, that is easily traceable. Do not lie about your degrees, your experience, or even the where you worked, because that too is traceable. Those findable facts need to stay secure, but tell the story that will make sense to your listener beyond that.
There's another comment in chat. Actually, you know what? Let me give a real life example of this. Let me warn you people off of something, because it is incredibly easy in the panic. Part of our show notes, so we made show notes for this show about things we're going to talk about. We're going to get to the branding thing just a little bit. And part of it, we also said, hey, Danny's experience with the job market, because I've been on this rodeo 6 or 7 times, and I can tell you unequivocally it does not get any easier. But so the panic still comes. I don't care how many times you've been thrown. I don't care how well known you are in the industry. The panic will stay, and you'll feel it whether you think you're going to or not. But I still also remember the panic of being a new job seeker, or being in a position where it came out of completely left field. There's a whole conversation to be had about situational awareness that we'll have. This could potentially be a multi-part series. But being caught unawares with no little nest egg, I forget what the stat is of how many people have 3 months saved up, 6 months saved up. Not a lot of us, I can tell you that, at least in the US. Of one of them, the first times I was ever let go and laid off out of left field acquisition, I was absolutely panicked. So I copied a resume. Now, this was 10 years, this 20 years ago, right? Like, I was half my age, I was 20 something, and I was panicked, and I'd never happened before. I literally just copied my friend's resume. And that resume got me in. This is back when you had to go somewhere in a physical door to go sit at a conference table. And God bless that man who tortured me for 45 minutes. He did not let me go. It was evident in the first 5 seconds this was not my resume. I did not know about vSphere. I did not know about virtual. I didn't know jack about 60% of that resume. But I needed to get in the door because I thought if I just got in the door, I could just lie my way through it. Not on something so technical, you dummy. And he did not let me up. I wanted to cry. And he was like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And then he kept asking me about every little thing. But 2 things in, any other hiring manager would have been like, hey man, nah, you're wasting our time. This guy was like, I'm going to make you wriggle. And I'm going to teach you something. And he did, because this is 20 some years later.
Yeah. And you still could recall that instantly.
I feel it like heartburn right now. And could just be a heart attack happening. Come on, Widowmaker. But so yes, that is a little story to underscore. Can you imagine just not being able to click hang up on a Zoom? You're in a room that somebody has to escort you out of because you don't know the building, and they're just like, take your beatings, take your absolute beatings. And yeah, let's talk really quickly about that, Susanna, Jen, what are some of the, as you talk to people, Jen, in giving counsel to people in marketing and personal brand building, Susanna, in your expertise in resume, what are some of the complaints that you hear from job seekers? What are some of the frustrations you hear? Are there common ones? And what is your go-to counsel for those common ones? I've brought up things like ghosting with you. So what in your experience have you heard?
Yeah, a lot of talk about ghosting, sending things out into the ether and never receiving even a, no thank you type of a response back. I always tell people to start with the connections that they already have. You want to start by seeing, who do you know at the company, or who do you know who knows someone at the company? And that can be twofold. They can, first, hand deliver digitally your resume to the right hiring manager, but they can also, if they understand more about what's going on at the company, that job description, we all know when we've been hired for new roles, it rarely, if ever, matches what is actually going to happen. So it gives you a chance to learn a little bit more about the backstory. Was there someone else in this role? Is it a brand new role? What is the culture actually like that's not just in that boilerplate on the job description? So twofold, finding a way to, get your application to the right person, but even before you fill out your entire resume to customize it for that role, find out what they're actually needing in that position and what the real skinny is there. What about you, Susanna? What have you seen?
I hear a lot of complaints about applicant tracking systems and people putting the blame on ATSs. Yeah, Danny. I also hear a lot about ghosting, and that absolutely drove me
Robots.
crazy.
He's the goddamn robot.
I um it's awful. Like, you're putting yourself out there repeatedly. I've also heard about people just loathing the ATS process where I have to create another account and another password, ICMS, Workday, for like the same job. Why can't they remember me that I've applied for other jobs using this platform? So single sign-on would be really helpful, and instead it's multiple accounts. And then I hear just people getting bad advice. Honestly, like, there are so many people out there who pretend to be experts in resumes and job seeking, and
Do you have any
they're
examples of the worst advice you've heard?
I just heard one last night to put your picture on your resume, which is a terrible idea. In the United States, if you are a job seeker, please do not put your picture on your resume. First of all, you're taking up valuable real estate. And secondly, it introduces more bias into a process that is already kind of fraught with bias. So don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, I always
What
say,
if I just got my hair done though, and I'm looking like super cute and
and,
it's a big
No,
no-no.
pretty privilege is not something that should be listed.
and again, there might be somebody listening to this who is not in the United States. We're not trying to, like, just for the record, all of us are in the continental United States. So this is all colored. Our own biases are colored by the country that we live in. So that might be a thing somewhere else where maybe it doesn't matter
Well,
as much.
Susanna says no. Susanna
No?
said no.
It's
No,
not
no,
a thing,
sorry.
'cause
That's
I've
shaking
seen,
head like,
like,
don't do it in the
I'm like,
US.
oh.
It is actually common in other places. So,
Oh.
but if you are applying for US jobs, please do not put your picture on your resume.
Can I put a picture, but it's just a mole rat?
No.
No, you don't think that would go over? You don't think that may be memorable?
As we're reviewing resumes, we have actually, my team and I have been like, oh, this is so simple. It's so clear. So, like, the fancy formatting, stop with it. Just simple black and white, Times New Roman. Like, this does not need to be fancy. It just needs to be easy to read. I am actually taking maybe not even 7 seconds to review resumes when I am looking at resumes, and I'm scanning so fast. So make my job easy so that I can get to your resume.
So that leads me into there are two very important questions here that I want to ask the both of you. I'll start with you, Susanna. What can hire? So you and I actually just talked. We had actually coffee in person where I was ranting about this, and you had a very sentient point saying, you can't just blame the robots because the AI can't even spell when you make an image. That's fine. Granted, accept that. It is garbage in and garbage out, right? Those things are only as good as any LLM of what you train that on. So what if there is a hiring manager within ear or eye shot of this? What do they need to do differently?
You need to invest more time on the front end. And this is something that I'm working with on my team. So work with your HR partner to really identify what you're looking for and the kind of person who's going to succeed. Think about the skills, think about the experiences, think about what they're actually going to be doing. And then this is crucial, and almost nobody does this. Think about how you're going to assess their success in the job and communicate all of that. So we're now instituting a very rigorous, time-consuming process where we're interviewing our hiring managers to do a skills gap analysis on their teams,
Mm.
and then to identify the skills that are missing and needed and how we identify. And that will help you actually determine the right keywords so that when you're setting up your ATS, you're looking for the right things. You cannot copy and paste that job description from 1986. It just doesn't work.
And what do, as Matt just said, know the job, hiring managers, quit asking for 39 years of experience for entry level positions. I can train anyone to be a tier
Yes.
one analyst. There does seem to be a silo or some glitch in the signal between a hiring manager and the recruiter. So what do recruiters need to do differently?
Recruiters need to get more curious. I hate recruiters who just take recs and then don't push back, don't ask any questions, don't bother to learn. The recruiters actually need to do some work in getting smart about the role. And then recruiters need to get way better at identifying transferable skills. One of my frustrations as a job seeker was I didn't have a point A to slot A resume. I just didn't. So I needed to connect the dots for people. But if people were scanning for keywords, they weren't going to find it in my experience. What I had was capability, and that was going to make up, that's what I wanted to utilize as my capabilities. So recruiters, get more creative.
What about you, Jen? If you could sit, imagine we're having a couples therapy session, except the couple in one chair is a hiring manager, in the other chair is the recruiter. How would you make them fall in love with each other again?
Honestly, just asking them to do a little like check up from the neck up before you even start going through any of the materials, because we bring our baggage into every task that we're doing. If you're not in the right frame of mind, even if the things need to be done, take a beat, take a moment, realize that the papers or the things that you're scrolling through are humans for the most part, unless there's a lot of bot submissions. These are, real humans, and give it the time that actually deserves. And that's your job, to make sure that you're like thoroughly going through and screening those different applications.
Now, I am not so callous as to have no sympathy for those people, right? Whoever they be in those positions. I know it's a job and the job is hard. And I don't assume that they are heartless automatons. Many of them are. I have a beef with a recruiter that goes back 20 years. They don't know it. I remember it. That's a whole story for another day. I was just talking about this person today. No, Danny, we're not going into that. So when we so I understand the inundation that you have. I'm talking to these people now, these recruiters, and I know you get a job. I know you have KPIs. I know you have all of these things. So let's take a more sympathetic angle for a second. I'm loath to do it, but let's. How can we make their job easier? Jen Van Antwerp, Queen of Marketing, learning how to market ourselves to them to at least make their jobs a little easier.
Yeah. So, Susan, I'll say that, stop me if any of this is incorrect, but do not use LinkedIn Quick Apply, like ever.
Really?
That
'Cause
is
I've been doing it.
basically just pissing into the wind. You are
That's what it feels like.
going to actually have, it's just
Where does that
not
go?
going to go.
Does it, what happens when you do that? Does it just go like?
I think it's just made it the process so simple that job hunters aren't taking the time to really go through and customize anything. They're just like, yep, that looks good. Yep, that looks good. Yep, that looks good. And then it's like this compounding crap where you feel like, oh my God, I applied to 100 jobs in this past week and I didn't get any of them. But you should not be applying to 100 jobs in a week. You should be taking the time to really like craft, customize, OSINT, figure out what the company does, who you're connected through, get some intel before you put that document together. It's like the most important, very first, connection that company is going to have with you, their first, interaction with you. Make it count. Don't just like, quick apply. So take the time, do some OSINT, do the due diligence of, figuring out what those connections are, what they're looking for, and, really look back at your experience. And I know it's a lot of extra work having like custom resumes for each position, but it really does feel like that's going to put you in a better light than just having this carbon copied thing that is one size fits all. That's not going to fly.
Another piece of bad advice I get, sorry, just is that it's a numbers game. I hear that all the time. Like you just need to apply to a lot of jobs. Nope. It is the right person for the right job. And the more time you as a job seeker invest in getting clarity on what you want, where you'll thrive and what you bring and how that aligns with the company, it will actually only take one resume and one job if you're the right candidate. It's a lot like dating, y'all. Like nobody likes online dating because it's just a numbers game. It's getting clarity on who you are and what you want, and then you can identify the right opportunity for you.
There's a lot of marketing involved in that because a lot of vendors do that spray and pray method, almost like trying to trick someone into clicking on request a demo. And it's like, that's not the right way to build relationships.
Aren't there some of those jobs though that are, is that like the only way some of these companies are letting you apply? Or are there other like more roundabout ways of doing it? Like, because I could have swore I've seen some jobs where like the only option was like, oh, I saw the job on LinkedIn, I'm just gonna hit the, or is there normally you can look and go to their website and do it that way?
Yeah, typically they might have that LinkedIn quick apply turned on, or like the job application turned on LinkedIn for a little bit of time. But typically you can also find it on some other site, their website, or whichever like third-party company they use for that.
Their career site. Every ATS pushes out to LinkedIn and Indeed. I have discovered that we actually get almost all of our applications through Indeed, which does have an easy apply that is linked to our ATS. So if you're going to be doing a third-party application, use Indeed. Do not use LinkedIn. It's just way different experience for everyone.
Let's expand on those different experiences and that whole like spray and pray type method and get more into that personal brand building. Jen, why is that important? Like why? Now there's also a difference between company brand and personal brand. I think people conflate those two. They hear brand and they just think, what, do I need a logo? I mean, well, first,
right,
a logo would be cool. I want my own logo. I technically have one. I had somebody on Fiverr make that stupid mohawk guy on the bottom of the screen.
nice.
I don't know why. I think she copied and pasted from somewhere else. But why is, especially to people who this whole personal branding thing wasn't,
just makes me want to
right?
Yeah,
Either makes them want to
I get it,
vomit, or it wasn't as, is ubiquitous the word that I want to use? I don't know. But like it wasn't as common as it is today, 20 years ago, something like that. Why is it important?
It was just as important back then, but I think humans were not inundated with as much stimuli and as many opportunities to interact with other humans. So the way that I was raised, like you don't ever talk about, you don't brag. So when I first started thinking about like self promotion or even talking about the things I've done, it made me physically uncomfortable. It makes me almost like break out in a rash. But in thinking about marketing and branding from a company perspective, your brand is almost what people are saying about you when you're not there. It's not a logo. It's not a tagline. It's not even a color palette. It's the way that people think and feel about you as a person or as a company. So if you can start thinking about it that way, that kind of widens the scope of like, it's not just, there are some tips and tricks and things that you can do on sites like LinkedIn or, creating your own website. There are a lot of really quick and easy tools to do that now, where you can showcase either your writing, your visuals, bringing in any of the hobbies, the things that make you uniquely you. That all ties into branding and showing who you are as a person, because you're going to be bringing all of those amazing assets to a company. So there's like some technical stuff that you can do, but a lot of it is just thinking about, how do I want to present myself? And while it might feel a little awkward and uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to like, nope, I'm just lurking in the background, I'm just going to do a good job, and then people are going to recognize that. That might have been the case like 20 or so years ago, but you still had to do some method of self-promotion. And now there are great ways and tools to do that on LinkedIn, and just by, being a community supporter, or, volunteering at different organizations or at your local B-sides or different conferences. A lot of different ways to like promote that personal brand in a way that feels real and authentic, and that just isn't just like, look at me, I'm a talking head and I'm using AI generated content to just spew out lots and lots of garbage, which you do see a lot. And in these, ever evolving digital landscape, in these, like
Gross.
tame,
That's so gross.
in this time where like there's so much really bad content that's created by AI tools, not proofread, not humanized. If you are a little rough around the edges, if you mess up every once in a while, I honestly see that as a good thing. You should be cautious about grammar and typos if you're trying to submit a job application. Double, triple, quadruple check. This is your first impression. Make sure it's good. But if you're doing your own like content creation or visuals, it's okay for it not to be perfect, because that'll help it to stand out in this world where everything is starting to look just the same.
Here's a great question in chat. Now, I remember curmudgeon. I was the old man yelling at clouds up until very recently about AI and LLMs and putting stuff into ChatGPT. And Unicorn Sec just asked, is AI okay if you, quote, proofread and humanize?
100%. Yes. I have turned Claude AI. Claude is my buddy. Claude got me through resume revisions and helping me to personalize my resume for jobs and making sure that I had my keywords, and helped me a lot with cover letters. But our conversation before this has actually made me think that you shouldn't use AI for cover letters. That's where you should invest your personality. But yes, please use AI. It makes it so much easier.
Cover
Yeah,
letters
and
are
you
my
can also-
jam. I love
letters are
cover
awesome.
letters.
For AI, another way that you can kind of utilize the AI tool with the job hunt is to like feed the resume, the job description, and say, if you're the hiring manager, give me out a list of 10 questions that I might get in my first interview. Okay, give me a list of 10 questions that I might have in a more technical deep dive interview. And you can use that as a way to start practicing. It's probably not going to be the exact same ones, unless that hiring manager is literally putting into the AI tool, what questions should I ask this candidate? Like, you might get lucky, but it'll just give you a chance to start working through some of the questions that might be asked, and see what your answers might be, preparing a little bit more.
Syntax says, teach me how to make a good cover letter. So I can only give you what mine are. And so what we are going to do right now, this is a good segue into that, is the next thing is, what changes should we make to our LinkedIn profile today? And we're going to be using mine as the sacrificial pony for this. But I would like to do another one of these soon that also goes over cover letter. My style is probably vastly different than a lot of people's. Like I've mentioned already, I love writing. I love metaphor, and I love writing with feeling. And then I have to temper that this is a job, and I have to write to a wider audience. So like for me, it's trickier. And it could be, but then some people I want this job because look nice, and you got to do more than that. I am person, whatever. So to that end, we should do another one of these for that. But if I put my LinkedIn up there, would you guys go through it for me? And we
let's
go
see what we got.
Okay. This is the words. I think I did my resume one time. But let's just do the LinkedIn thing. All right. Let me
And mine isn't perfect either. I was telling Danny this yesterday. Like, there's a banner area up at the top that I've been meaning to update to utilize that really amazing real estate space. And I just haven't done that in a while. So um, we'll start. I'll kind of kick things off and Susanna jump in if you see some
So,
stuff
and
there
so
as
by the way,
well.
like I can zoom in, I can do whatever on this. You guys, can you see my stuff?
Maybe zoom in a little bit. Actually, real quick, in the upper right-hand side, we'll start with that public profile and URL. You can customize URLs. So you can either have it, a lot of times people will customize it to be their name, that works. But if there is a specific type of job or something that you know, this is my mission, this is my passion, this is my trajectory, this is where I want to be and what I want to do for the rest of my life, you can also make that part of your URL string as well, so that way it's literally part of your profile there. The banner image up at the top, that's something that I was in a personal branding workshop a couple of years ago, and they pulled up my LinkedIn profile and the guy gave me grief about it because right now it's just a beautiful landscape picture of a part of Arizona. And he said, oh yeah, look at all this beautiful real estate here. And you're not sharing anything about what you do or the solutions that you provide. And I still haven't changed it. But there are templates within Canva, even the free version of Canva that you can use. Just put in, LinkedIn banner or header image, and you can put in information about what types of roles you're looking for, make it quick and short, almost like a little headline. And then your headshot should be good professional headshot, crisp, clean, but you can have it show a little bit of your personality too. It doesn't have to be too, formulaic, but make sure it's not like that bathroom selfie, even if you thought looked cute from that angle.
Then there's a comment from Syntax. So pictures are bad on a resume, but good on LinkedIn. Different medium, right? Though it's a different, yeah.
Absolutely. LinkedIn is a marketing platform. So yeah.
You're kind of marketing yourself, as gross as that sounds, but it's important to do.
How is my picture? Let's say this.
I like it. I really, really like it. I also liked the rainbow color mohawk. I know you changed this one. He's in his professional era now, but I really like it. I think it shows some personality. You're smiling. It doesn't look too static. And I actually like the head tilt, the way that the head is tilted a little bit too, because it's slightly different from most of there are all those like, how many times can we cross our arms?
Oh my God, no, never.
Yeah.
Anyway, and real quick before I forget, you were talking about the URL. Should it is that okay to have like my middle initial last name? Should it be something nicer? Like I don't know.
That it says up to you.
It's just don't have the like number or letter string.
Yeah.
Actually put some thought into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yours is great.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Like
world famous hairdresser, or whatever you might want it to be, or your name, or Jen Van Antwerp, Queen of the South. I don't know.
No, I'm putting Queen of the South on mine, even though I'm
do it.
lifetime Northeast elitist. All right, where should I go now? What do you want to see now?
So the headline. So where you have that chief translator, I absolutely love that. A lot of folks
that
just
right out of my rear.
It was fantastic. They put their job title and where they are right now. That's interesting and important, but people can also find that elsewhere. One that people reuse a lot is like, I help blah, 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 blah. It's okay, but it's been used so much now that there are better ways to be a little bit more creative with that headline. Think of it like, this is the book of you. This is the book of you and your offerings, both as a human and as an employee. This is your title of your book. Make it, really, really short, direct, to the point, but creative.
Use every character. You've got more space there that you can use. So start with what is your brand in a single or 3 words? Who are you? And then tell a story of what you do. So are you solving InfoSec problems for diverse industries? And then put something fun about yourself. Mine says that I am hold on, I just brought this up, collector of dad jokes and builder of great workplaces. So bring some of your own personality into that, but use every character. This is more real estate.
Again, this all speaks, this is branding. These are the same conversations that if you have a job right now and they have a marketing department, these are the types of conversations they are having about that company brand as well. what the words that they use, adjectives and adverbs, and well, it's this tense and that tense. These are the same conversations you need to be having with yourself about how you market yourself, because you are a product and you are trying to sell yourself and get somebody to pay you money for you.
Make
Right?
it sound so dirty,
Thank
but you know, that's kind of true. There is that gray area. We talked a little bit about this yesterday between, um, if you are employed at a company, there are a lot of times when you'll be asked to, create content, to share it on your profile. Make sure that even if you are really passionate, loyal, devoted to a company or an organization, even if it's your own organization, you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, you're building up this profile there, make sure you're also not, neglecting doing some stuff on your own, because you never know what the future holds. And if something changes and all of your personal time has been spent building up this other brand rather than yourself, you can do both of those things in tandem. Just don't neglect doing that yourself as well.
Right. What other sections do you want me to go to?
Go to the featured posts section. This is an area where a lot of people maybe even don't know that it's there. This is the things you're most proud of, the first things that you want people to see. They're maybe not going to have time to read all through all the jobs and the positions and the roles and responsibilities. They're not going to have time to do all that, but they will be able to see a quickly scrollable, and there's something addicting with that too, quickly scrollable feed of these are your highlights, your top stories. Make sure you have some things in there. They can come from the posts or the reposts that you've done. So if there are any awards that you've won or things that you're proud of, great content pieces, anything that you want to highlight, a podcast that you've been on, list those in the featured items, and then don't just put it there and forget about it. Go back really frequently, make sure it's not out of date, that you don't have, in this recent news story, and it's something from 2022 pinned right there in your featured items, and you can move them around too once you've decided what you want in your featured. And there's a lot of real estate there too. You can have a whole bunch of stuff, but you can move the most important and most recent ones to that, like top 2 or 3. That's instantly recognizable. Susanna, do you have any good tips on using featured items that you've seen people do really well?
Before you answer that, Susanna, somebody asked in the chat, I didn't want to go too far with that. Should we put looking for work post in featured?
Ooh, so my advice would be no. Nobody is attracted to desperate. You can be proactive, but use your LinkedIn as sort of your billboard. You are advertising yourself, right, Jen? And no
Portfolio kind
company,
of.
right? No company says looking for customers. So why would you post looking for work? You want to be so attractive that someone is going to see you and want to poach you from whatever it is that you are doing or have been doing. And what maybe you're doing right now is taking a little sabbatical, taking a little you time, job searching. But you want someone to want you. And that doesn't happen when you say looking for work.
Yeah, and again, that is on its face to some people that is a tough love kind of harsh reality. Just because we just said this doesn't mean we like it. No, we don't like this. Susanna does this for a living. She hires for a living. We don't like it, but this is the reality of it. And optics are everything. Sometimes I hated being the guy in my old position, being like, yeah, this is a tough decision we got to make, but also there's a way. One of my favorite quotes is from a movie called The Lion in Winter, but it's also, I got it from The West Wing, so I'm not that, culture or whatever. But it's when these 3 prisoners are in a prison cell and he's like crying and blubbering. And when his friends tell him to stop it, and he goes, "You fool, as if it matters how a man falls down." And his friend goes, "When the fall is all that's left, it matters a great deal." So the thing you think that should not matter, the reality is that it does. And anybody who says it doesn't isn't being honest with themselves about their own biases, right? So deal with the reality and not what you wish that it was.
This also goes to posting. The toughest love I received as a job seeker was a former colleague who commented on my post, and I've been really transparent. Like, I love my vulnerability. I love my transparency, but I'd been posting kind of consistently about how hard the job search was. And she said, nobody wants to hear you when you're down. They only want to hear you when you've won, and then you've talked about when you were down. That's when you can talk about how hard it is, but do not, when you're down, talk about how you're down. That doesn't help you.
There's a so we have such few time. I should have scheduled this for more time. But is there anything? If there's one last thing that we could cover right now on my LinkedIn, what would you
Yes.
what would
So
you two want to hit and also be able to tell the people that, hey, really concentrate on this?
one point that I want to make sure that folks understand is that whether it's good or bad, the material, the articles, the posts that you create on LinkedIn are searchable. And because LinkedIn has such good authority, like search authority, the articles that you post there, you can cross post. If you have your own blog on your own website, you can do the content there, but also you can create those articles on LinkedIn and it'll be easier for people to search that. And then that just helps to associate your name and the content that you're creating with that, that subject matter that you're wanting to be seen as, hireable or an expert or thought leader or whatever you want to, be seen as in the industry. So that was the last thing that I wanted to point out from a technical side.
Let's as we're in the closing minutes here, let's go back to resumes for 1 second, and let's just off the top of my head, I'm going to think of some common questions. How many pages should it be, and is it the end of the world if it's more than one?
No, it should reflect your experience. So try to keep it to 2, but don't stress about it keeping it to 1. You only need 1 page if you are a fresh college graduate and you have no experience. Also, do not put anything older than 10 years, and do not include experience that's not relevant to the job you are looking for.
Which
So
goes
if
to
you,
tailoring.
yeah,
Right. So like I haven't been technical in technical roles for almost 7-8 years now. I'm in operations, I'm in business development. So I will put at the end of mine, which you helped me with, Susanna, I put other experience. Just so you know, I was on threat hunting teams for huge corporations. You should probably know that if there's any, so just so that they know that when I'm dealing with their marketing or their blogs or their selling or whatever, I have a technical acumen. But it's not what I'm highlighting now because those aren't the jobs that I'm going for. Now, if that job is half operations, half technical, you mold it. Here is the thing, right? Susanna, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong. These things take time. There's a reason why the cliche is out there of looking for a job is your new full-time job. I'm sorry, question in the chat. What if you're at a gig for over 10 years? Do you still detail all of that through the years or keep it to the last decade? Decade, yeah.
good for 10 years. So if you've
First of all, congratulations.
right, nobody does that anymore.
A
I'm like,
miracle.
I can't even imagine. I've never held it on long.
10 years.
So
Show off.
summarize it. You've been in a job for over 10 years. You should only have 3 to 4 bullet points of your top achievements during that time. Don't give the whole chapter and verse. Give the highlights, your greatest hits, and that's what should be under your bullet points.
Another
And
question.
if you had transitioned through a bunch of different roles, show that. When I've been a hiring manager in the past, I have loved to see someone who's progressed through different roles at a company, because that shows me when you're going to be devoting a lot of time and onboarding with an individual, they want to grow and help develop. It's not just one role. Even if that role is a more executive role, people might only list that one on their resume, but there's just so much value in seeing that somebody is willing to take on new things and, grow with the company.
Let's see, there was blah, blah, blah. I had a company ask about education, but I had not been in school for 20 plus years.
So list where you went, but not when you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too that we talked about. Why you don't put pictures on there. There's enough bias in there to begin with. Ageism, real thing. And I can already feel it creeping in at 43. I can be as good as I want, but now it's a thing I have to worry about. I didn't have to worry about that 6-7 years ago. Ageism is a thing. Be aware that even if it's subconscious, it's something that you will run the risk of. Thank you, Unicorn Got Job, for a call, but thank you all so much for doing this. Everyone keep the faith. We can do this. So 5 gigs in 25 years is all documentable. Well, 5 roles. That's what somebody asked.
25 years. So that's where you want to keep the last 10 years as a focus because that's the freshest experience, but use that other experience below. Just keep it relevant.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Keep it relevant to that job that you're applying for. If some of that stuff that you did has no bearing, and be pragmatic about it. Like be objective, saying, okay, I feel, you could say this, like, I feel that this had this impact here, but then think, am I the only one that's really going to care about this? Because we have our own personal biases, stuff that we feel accomplished about, that we think matters, but try to be as objective as you can from the outside, going, yeah, but these people aren't going to care about that. But how do I, so just pick the stuff that is going to be germane to the role that you're applying for.
Like, I'm proud of winning that like pie eating contest back in 2002, but I don't know if anybody else is going to care about that. How I Met Your Mother reference for anybody still.
So we're at the end of our hour. Funny enough, I only have to end this because I have a job interview to go on.
Nice.
Yay! That's the best reason to end anything.
It's just how it got scheduled, and I don't want to keep the dude waiting, so like I'm not even making this up. It's at 1 o'clock. It's 12:59. So thank you everybody for joining. This is going to be available today. I'm going to break this up. I'm going to listen to it again, go through all the questions, and then you know, if you enjoyed it, if you're in the chat right now, I don't know how many of you are in there, but if you enjoyed it, should we do another one? Should we do something that goes deep dive into a resume and then deep dive into a brand? I'll do as many as Susanna and Jen feel like doing with me as their schedule allows. They are doing this out of the goodness of their collective hearts. So if you come up with other questions around what we've talked about, if you saw me post this and you know where I am, I'm on LinkedIn all the time, regardless or not. I'm on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, and I'm on Blue Sky. So all of my DMs are open. If you have questions like, hey, Danny, you're going to do this thing again? Absolutely. Can you ask this? Can you cover this? And we will do this. And I'll do that even if I find a gig, and I will keep doing this. So I would like to do a much longer outro. They deserve better than this. But Susanna, Jen, thank you so much. We just barely have not even tapped on the surface of whatever. We didn't even scratch the surface. We just kind of tapped to see if anything was down there. And there's a ton down there. So look for this post. I'm going to repost about where this is. It actually should be up on the live section on my YouTube right now. That's where it stays, but I'll cut it up and I'll make it more digestible for people. Susanna and Jen, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a joy.
Thank you. Go break a leg.
Destroy humans.